So we're going to talk a little bit about what responsive design is now that we have our environment set up, and then we'll go back to converting a website into responsive design. So this is a PDF PowerPoint slideshow that I found on the internet, and he did a good job about it, so I'm going to flip through it, give him some credit. This shows you that responsive design is not just about the desktop anymore. Look at how many different screen sizes there are here. And in the Android system alone, there's like 27 different screen sizes that they currently support. Yeah, BlackBerry's it's probably dead. But down here we have the iPod Nanos, and I think those are starting to look at web pages themselves. We have Kindles and Nooks and all of these kind of stuff. They're going to change. They're going to add everything. And beyond these, we have the larger screens like TVs. TVs are now displaying web pages, and they have huge screen real estate. So, and the latest Macs with their Retina screens, they have 2,000, 2,400 pixels or something like that across. So they're huge. So he uses this tagline. He says, responsive web design is responsible web design. And this is the guy, Eric Fadiman. So you can go to his site and see his stuff. What they say the father of responsive design is the guy named Ethan Marcotte. And he is an advocate, has been an advocate of fluid design for years. And like 4 or 5 years ago, we used to teach fluid design so that it would be flexible up to the point of, we were into the 800 by 600. And so we had to support 640 by 480 and 800 by 600. Those are really tiny now, aren't they? So they had fluid grids that flowed between those. And so we got away from that because the designers wanted to have more control over what was on the page. So we started fixing these at 960. 960 seems to be a standard now. Your website is 960. If your page is bigger than that, we put these huge right and left margins on it. So it stays centered in the middle. And you see that in a lot of websites. So he advocates that, and wrote an article several years ago, which I want you to read, and it is this responsive web design from a list apart, listapart.com/article/responsive-web-design. And this is his article that started off, and he coined the word responsive web design. That's really kind of he's the father of this system. Of course, he's a young guy. So I want you to read this entire article. It's really good. Talks about how to do it. And he goes through the media queries and all kinds of different things, how to be more responsive, how to make percentages, and how you come up with those percentages. He goes through the math, which we'll be doing here. A lot of math, isn't that great? Which is why I advocate using SAS, because SAS does the math for us. All right, so there's Ethan Marcotte. All right, so he does speaking and lecture tours and all kinds of stuff. He's well known for this responsive design. And that's the guy that wrote this. What is responsive design? We're designing our pages to display in a variety of devices. Now that means we also have to worry about the future. We might have a web page on a huge sign out in front of a store that's got 20,000 pixels wide by something deep, right? And so it's theoretically possible with these screens that you put multiple screens side by side. You've seen those multi-TV displays. It's possible that gets to be huge. So we don't want a 960 pixel right in the middle of this with 14 feet on each side of it. We want to be able to make use of that whole page. And so we have to worry about the future. So he calls it responsible because we want to future-proof our designs. We want to make them work on anything that's out there or anything that's coming in the future. So most of the people are advocating now that you should never build a fixed width site anymore. That you should start with a responsive design, and most people are also advocating that you design for the smallest screen first and move up from there. Then you build and add features. As you get more screen real estate, you can add more features to the site. I never do it that way. I always go the other way because I'm a desktop guy, right? I think in terms of designing the desktop first, but I can see where that has some validity. So this is a graph. I'm not sure where he got his data from, but he's showing that mobile will outpace desktop in just the next couple years. And it's possible that it already has, the number of devices that are out there. And he says we need to design for the world that's post-desktop and touch-enabled devices. So we need to think about things like buttons on the screen are easy to hit with a mouse, but or a link is easy to hit with a mouse. But on a web page, you have a big old fat finger hitting this little link, and you've got 3 links right in a row, and you always hit the wrong one, right? So you have to zoom up really large so you can see just that link, and then you click the link, and then it works, right?
Some of them are actually aimed to have maybe things like that. On Android, if you click on that, it'll zoom up automatically.
Yeah.
2 or 3 links, and you can do that without having to zoom yourself.
Right. So we can fix that by making these links into bigger buttons that that are the width of a finger, or height of a finger, and so make them look more like a mobile application. So, and this is what we were talking about just a couple years ago. We just started making things bigger: 640, 800, 960, 1140, and we kept making fixed width designs that matched these resolutions. And that's just not true. We have so many other ways of doing that. And he says, is this the web? Yes. And the new context is it's everywhere. And this guy, he's got 3 web browsers going if you think of the TV as in front of him, which is amazing. Oh, he's got his phone over here. Yeah, I missed his phone. He's got his phone, 3, and the TV he's watching. So, interesting. And there's a TV with web content on it. Here's some things that are starting to pop up. Interactive kiosks with huge screens like this, and for directions and finding your way on the metro, subway line, things like that. The tablet, everybody's going mobile, obviously. Yeah. Oh, did they make a second? I want to see that. Send me that link. I'd love to see that. We need to stop designing for fixed widths. And part of this is this concept that a lot of people are also advocating, Ethan Marcotte does too, that we need to let go of the control. And this is the hardest thing to deal with customers, is they might have an ad that they put out, and they want you to duplicate that exactly on the web. Remember doing that in CSS? Right? The man-eating iPod, the magazine article. And they want it exactly, right? And so the idea now is to let go of the control a little bit and let the browser manipulate things and move it around as it needs to fit on the page. And that's a problem with people's expectations that you're going to have to manage, that it doesn't necessarily have to look the same on every browser. Right, yeah, just get rid of those people. So we need to let go of control a little bit and let the browser. Now, years ago, when we had web pages in 1995, we didn't have this control over, we didn't have CSS positioning. So we blopped a bunch of text on the screen, put it in a paragraph tag, and as the browsers changed sizes, the browser would reshuffle the text, and it was automatically responsive. And we got away from that when we added the CSS, and we had all this control now of doing style sheets. So we're now kind of regressing back to the old days where, who cares? I want to see the data. I don't care if it's right justified every time or it's fitting in this one column. Let's give up some of that control. That's kind of what they're saying. And also give up this idea of having a dedicated mobile site. Just have one site, because that's a pain to control, to keep active all of the different sites. You see people have an m.domainname.com. That's their mobile version of the website. But you have to maintain that separately. It would be better if you had one code base of your HTML and your CSS modified appropriately for every screen size you could think of, and then you're only dealing with one web page then. Yeah, a lot of times they cut out so much information on the mobile sites that you can't find it, and so people bypass that and they go back to the little tiny browser screen and they have to zoom up and, yeah, the top view or whatever. All right. A mobile app, as different than a mobile web page, is, I hope everybody understands the difference there. A mobile app we consider to be a compiled application on the mobile device, so in its native language. So in an Android phone, Android operating system, it would be compiled Java. It's all written in Java. And iOS is all the Mac stuff, and it's all written in Objective-C, which is really fun. And the Windows Phone is all done in C# now. So those are a lot more expensive. That's what we'll get into in the next couple classes. We'll actually compile our own Android apps and things like that. But for that, you have to learn Java. So fun stuff. All right, and then he talks about, this is what I was talking about before, having an m.site, dedicated mobile. It's difficult to share links. The links are different, so you can't email a link to somebody. It'll take them from their desktop to a mobile site, which is not right. So it's better not to have two different websites. This is an interesting statistic also. I guess he gets it from Strangeloop, that if you give them a choice, a third of the people already are going to bypass the mobile site and look at it in the big site anyway. And I think that's probably a little larger than that. Yeah, I bypass it all the time. I don't like them. Yeah, I do. I'm a more techie guy. Yeah, we do. That's true. We techies are in a different world. That's true. I agree with that. Our perceptions. Yes. All right. So this is where they talk about, they want you to design for the mobile first, the smallest audience, the smallest screen size first, and then add features. They call it progressive enhancement instead of progressive opposite of enhancement, degradation, I guess. Progressive degradation would be the word. So that you give them the best experience they can on the mobile device, and as you move up into screen sizes, you can add more features, put side navigation on, and add some more graphics and things like that as you get bigger and bigger. And again, we need to design for the future for devices and screens we haven't seen yet, like the Corningware glass thing that we just talked about. Okay, cool. You see these countertops on the kitchen, right, that are just big, huge screens, and you're moving pictures around. That's just so cool. Yeah, the Surface, that Google Glasses, right, all of that kind of stuff. We have no idea what the future is going to bring. So. Oh yeah, that would be cool. Yeah.
I signed up for that, but I never got it.
So this is the degradation way, where you think of the mobile last, and he uses this cup half full kind of a thing. So you degrade, and he says that's crappy, right? Mobile first, you progressively enhance it, and it's better. That's all he's trying to get across there. Yeah. Right, and that's the problem. We have so many existing sites that start here, and we have to go downward, you know. But what they're saying, if you're starting a brand new site, think of the mobile side first and then move upwards. I have a hard time with that, so I probably won't be doing that myself. Okay, semantic markup. We're coming into the age where we're going to do everything in HTML5. And think of the content first. Not that it's pretty. We want to show them something. Especially on a mobile device, they don't care as much as if it's pretty. They want to know, as they're driving down the street, is your store open or not? Or what the times are? Or do you sell this product? They want to get at content quickly. They don't want to see a bunch of intro flash stuff and all this garbage. They want to get at the content. And then this is where CSS was designed in the first place, to separate how it's displayed versus the actual content, and then his progressive enhancement concept. So let's move a little faster through this. These are some typical layouts. This is a layout that we see all the time where we have a header, a left nav, the middle content, right-hand nav or information, and then a bottom footer. That happens all the time. So when we move up to this, what he's saying is that one possibility is to move the left-hand nav up into the top, and then you still have your content and your right-hand nav and the footer at the bottom. But when we move down to smaller, we've got to stack everything. Everything's got to be stacked on top of each other. And again, we only care about widths. We don't care about heights of things, because it scrolls down infinitely, our web page. We don't care about the height. It's the width that we care about. So when we're modifying things, that's really all we care about.
There's a certain point, though, having to scroll down for half an hour.
Oh, yeah, sure. Sure, you make another page, right? You start making smaller pages. All right, so here's some more examples. As we shrink down, notice this is a style that you see all the time. This is like a 960 pixel on a wider screen, and so you have these huge margins on the right. You see that kind of a website all the time. As we shrink down, we leave the content the same, and we just start stripping out the margin because we don't need that. But at some point, when we start cutting into our content, then we have to start shrinking that content or stacking it like we have here. And so this is just stacking at some point. This one moves everything around. This one just moves the column down. So there's lots of different ways to do this kind of layout. And if you design your stuff into these divs, like these separate little divs, you can move those around a lot easier and change the sizes of those a lot easier. That would be a good assignment, is to take the man-eating iPod and make that into a responsive magazine layout.
I'm glad I'm not.
I like that. That would be really good. All right, so here's just some example websites. In a widescreen, you have a lot of room to put a lot of images across like this. As you shrink down, you have to stack them. So I've got 3 on top of 3. And we can shrink the images as well as we shrink down, and we'll show you how to do that. And then you can start stacking them two on top of each other. This one does a little more radical changes as it goes through. The nav starts over here. It then moves underneath here. And then it moves under here again. So lots of different ways to move things around, and that's where we get to the media queries. All right. Wow, there's a lot more to go here. I'm going to let you finish watching this on your own. It talks a lot about navigation, and see how in a small screen, see how big this is? That's a big button to push with your thumb or your finger. Whereas if it was a little link, I can't always hit it the right way. So when we move down into small iPhone size screens, we need to think about that interaction with the customer a little better. So those are different ways. We can have grids. These are big spots to hit with your thumb or your finger. Or even convert into a select list, which the phone is going to turn into this scrolling menu here. So there's lots of ways to do that. All right, so I'll let you go through the rest of this. There's lots of good information in here. Yes, so he talks a lot about how to do it then. This is probably mini day. Here's some standard sizes that you had asked about. So we also, not only do we have to worry about the widths, we have to worry about whether it's in portrait or landscape mode, because that changes the width of the browser, right? So we have to worry about those as well. And this talks about the different breakpoints. Most people pick 320, 480, 768, and then 1024. And then 1440 is another one that people are picking higher than this. And he talks about frameworks. We'll talk about that. So I want you to go through the rest of this on your own. It's good information. Any questions on any of this? So tomorrow we'll start taking the actual data and a fixed width website, and we'll start converting the CSS and making it responsive. So